Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having supplied the medical device industry for close to 30 years, this is just quality control 101 we're talking about here. It's actually shocking it's not in place. Chairman knows I'm big into data, so I want to understand the raw material supply chain here. We talk about precursor chemicals. Approximately how many precursor chemicals do you need? What's the universe of that? I'll ask you, Mr. Paquin, or whoever knows it.
I could say within one dimension. So we looked at 40 critical medicines. They were based on 7 foundational chemistries. So 7 to make the 40. Started with raw chemistry, 7 raw chemicals. They got converted into key starter materials. Those got converted to active pharmaceutical ingredients and then drug. Okay. So the ratio is not of magnitudes of order that's insurmountable. It's achievable.
How many total drugs do we have? Anybody have a number?
3,200 approved drugs for use in the United States.
And so over 3,000. How many active pharmaceutical ingredients comprise those 3,000 drugs?
We don't have specific data on it, but I would say in the hundreds, not thousands by any means.
For API, it would be the same number, right? Because a drug is the API, so it would be the same number. But the question is how many intermediates or reagents or solvents or key starting materials that will be less.
Again, I'm just so. Are there 100 precursor chemicals, or is that overstating the case?
Probably a little higher than 100 as raw chemicals, but within magnitude of order. Okay. Yeah.
And almost all of those are produced in China?
Predominant number of those are produced in China. Our chemical manufacturing base moved to China many decades ago, and they control that.
So if you're getting a brand name drug, are those precursor chemicals for the brand name drugs produced here in America?
No, they would be likely also produced elsewhere, keeping in mind that most of our new branded drugs are biologicals, and we're talking about drugs that are called small molecules. They're chemically derived.
So we are highly deficient in the base raw material, the precursor chemicals. Most of that's in China. Even with brand name drugs, that's a precursor chemical coming in from China. Is that easier to quality control than the active pharmaceutical ingredients?
The key starter materials, from a control standpoint, still have issues in regards to their quality. If you want to say like impurities, still exist in those key chemicals.
But because we're taking those precursor chemicals, now for brand drug, are they also getting the API then primarily?
That is correct.
And then they're just stamping the pill? Ms. Wosinski, you're shaking your head.
So API is largely, for branded drugs, is largely made in the United States and Europe.
Okay, say that over again.
So for branded drugs, API is overwhelmingly made in the United States and Europe, not in China.
But using precursor chemicals primarily from China.
Only if they are small molecules. So back to the point that Tony made, if you have biologics, the ones, and a lot of the branded drugs are biologics, those are made with an entirely different process that's not chemical. You actually grow them in cells.
Okay. And that's done here in the U.S.?
That would be done in the U.S. and Europe.
Okay, so the precursor chemicals, that's a refining process, requires permitting. Why was that offshored? Because of permitting process, or is there any kind of, I wouldn't think in big, large refining processes you're going to have much cost advantage due to offshore. It's just is it primarily problem permitting?
No, the genesis of that offshoring had multitude of factors. One was regulatory oversight in the United States for those facilities versus foreign, the cost of labor in foreign countries versus the United States.
I mean, refining, you got a lot of equipment, and there's not many people hanging around a refinery plant.
Well, and the third part was this a desire not to have those facilities here or near populations in the United States.
Because it's a dirty manufacturing process.
Just large emissions, large facilities.
So we're going to first have to overcome that. So there were basic and precursor chemicals, and we have to have that honest discussion. By the way, Ms. Wosinski, we are singing on the same hymnal here. Mm-hmm. Solve a problem, you have to first properly define it. And that's why, I've only got 5 minutes, I'm basically out of time here. We need to properly define this problem. We need to understand the raw material supply chain, we need to understand volumes, we need to understand what we're talking about. And so before we leap to a solution that's mistargeted, but let's get all this data down. So again,
So-
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate this hearing. This is extremely important. We need to fully understand this. We need more data.
And if I could add to it, one of the things I'd mentioned was the fact that we're not just reshoring, we're using advanced technology. So the ability to convert those large facilities into equipment that fits on this table is a critical added value. So bringing it to the United States with advanced technologies, advanced equipment that allow us to make those facilities smaller, cleaner, and more efficient.
But final point. Doing a QC check on even imported drugs, this is not rocket science. Okay, now, people can cheat on it, it needs regulatory oversight, but this should not be hard, and it's shocking that it's not already in place. I'm sorry, it shows the failure of our federal health agencies, truthfully. It's the utter failure that this is happening today.
Well, the fact we don't have a supply chain, we don't have a map, right? There was never even thought about having a map. We've allowed ourselves to be so dependent. It doesn't make any sense.
And we've known about these drug shortages for a long time, and we've done nothing about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.